Welcome to Front Porch Chat Live. And you know, I have this amazing guest with me today. During the 2016 Trump campaign, I got to meet Burma Davis Posey. And the interesting thing about that was that I found out she was a former Miss Georgia, and she's a chef, and all these. She's even brought food for us to try today. Can't wait to try it. Burma, thank you so much for coming to the show.
Thank you, Randy. I absolutely adore Randy. He has all of the gifts that a leader should have. He actually increased our Trump team to 13.
Well, this is about you. We're going to talk about you today. And by the way, folks, we
him.
know that you're picking up the movement because we're in front of a green screen. And so today she has on turquoise, which surprisingly is picking up the green. So it is what it is, folks, but we appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
Burma, I want to just get right into it. You know, you came from Georgia, right? You're from Georgia. Tell us a little bit about your journey to get to Orlando. How did you get started in pageants? And you were the former Miss Georgia. How did you get involved in cooking, or is that just something that happens naturally?
Oh gosh, when people ask about my life, I want to say what chapter, because God was good. He gave me a lot of different gifts, and I'm one of those people, and you're out there, I know that you understand. You really should choose the thing you love the most and maybe focus on that, because I tried to do every single thing, so life has been interesting. My hometown is Warner Robins, Georgia.
And where is that exactly?
That is in the central part of the state, and it's a brand new town, so it started during World War I. There was a base there. And actually, Randy, the United States Air Force started just a few days after my birthday.
Really?
That's right. He was signed into being. And our base is now the largest supply base in the entire country and the largest employer in the state of Georgia. So everyone came to my little town to help build this new town. And no one was...
Well, how did you get in the pageant process? How did that happen?
The pageant, back in those days, we didn't have a lot of pageants like we have now. You had Miss America and Miss Universe. And my mother was a stage mother, and she wanted me to be in the pageants. And so I went to school as an interior design major.
And your house is beautiful, by the way. You post pictures.
Thank you. Thank you. I love the interior design, and have restored historic buildings, have built a professional building that got the American Dental Association's Professional Building of the Year for the country, and Winter Park's Beautification Award. But that was another one of those things you want to do. But my town, everyone worked hard. Everyone was involved in the community. And so my father was on the city council for 12 years, and then he was elected mayor. And so my mother asked me to be in the pageant, and I had, at school, back in those days, girls didn't chase boys. And there was the cutest little boy on campus that I wanted to meet. And I thought he was in the ensemble, their college ensemble. So I went over to audition for that ensemble as an excuse to meet that cute little boy. And when I started singing, the music director jumped up from the piano and started running around the room saying, "A contralto, a contralto. 18 years, I've never had a contralto." And I'm from a teeny new town, and I didn't have any idea what a contralto was. And I thought he maybe had a screw loose up or stairs or something. But I made the ensemble and became their soloist, and we did 65 schools that year, and we sang on a cruise ship.
Oh, I'm hearing you right there. I was just turning that on. Go ahead,
But anyway, to get in the pageants, he arranged for me to audition for a famous opera singer in Massachusetts, and I was the youngest person to receive a fellowship to sing with the Boston Symphony Orchestra at a place called Tanglewood.
So, but the Miss America pageant system, that's all based on talent primarily. Now, of course, you're beautiful, but that's partially what that was.
That's right. The only reason I agreed to do this for my mom was it would give me another opportunity to sing for a live audience.
So it wasn't your dream, really. It was more your mom's, right?
Right. It was my mother's initially, but I had no idea how fabulous it was. Back in those days, every single state queen received a new Oldsmobile every 6,000 miles with our name on it. I made appearances in 27 of our states, and one day you might be with the governor doing something with him, and the next day you might be with a group of little Girl Scouts.
Wow.
So how many young people, 21 years old, have an opportunity to be trained like that? It's a wonderful experience and a fabulous program. And in fact, after my year was over, I went to work for Miss America and worked for them for about 20 years.
Wow, excuse me. That's a long time.
It is. I loved emceeing and singing and dancing at state and local pageants.
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize that during the campaign last year, and not to make this about Trump, but it is kind of funny, I had heard that you sang, and so all of a sudden one day we were doing like this push in all the downtown Apopka and Winter Park for phone calling for the president. So you actually traveled to all of the locations and sang the national anthem and all these different things. That was a wonderful thing. It was a gift to everybody, really.
Right. I was a religious singer for 15 years after my year
What's
as
your
Miss
favorite
Georgia.
song?
I love His Eyes on the Sparrow. That was my grandmother's.
One of my grandparents' favorite songs.
And since I love to garden, and thank you so much for this beautiful garden set. I just love it.
We figured for having a Southern Belle on, we have to have a garden,
I
right?
love it. I used to spend 1 hour in my garden, and the Orlando Sentinel actually did a 2-page color story on my gardens.
Really?
Yes, I love the gardens. And my grandmother lived next door when I was growing up, and we would start each day in her garden. She made me love it. In fact, my grandmother had a winter home in New Smyrna, and we used to go over in the 50s and 60s to Cypress Gardens. And that was another fun project because
that's where the people used to do the skiing behind the boats.
Right.
And I remember going there as a kid.
And they had girls dressed in antebellum gowns, and it was at one time in 1958 they were selling more Kodak film at Cypress Gardens than any place in the world. And a developer bought into it, and he wanted to make it into 3rd-acre lots. And they closed the cradle of Florida tourism. That started it all. And we're the tourism capital of the world, and this is our cradle. And once something's gone, it's gone forever. So I felt like the Lord wanted me to go over and lead the effort to save it. So we did. I had 20,000 flyers to give out on the final day.
And this is long before Facebook.
That's before Facebook. Email was even new back then. But they had put 529 people out of work with 3 days' notice. My heart went out to them. They had mortgages and children in school, and so someone needed to help them. We got Governor Bush involved. In fact, I handed out flyers with Governor Bush's personal email address on it. And as people were leaving on that final day, he did. The next day, Governor Bush went on television and he said, "We don't normally get involved in tourist attractions," he said, "but we're going to study this." And he said, "So you can stop the emails." I got the message.
So I guess you did something pretty impactful there.
We did. We got members in all 50 states. We got members in 27 countries. And we raised $13.5 million in 3.5 months.
How did you make your way from, I mean, we're kind of talking about it, but what brought you to Florida?
My husband was a dentist, and they were going
That's why you have beautiful teeth.
Yes, he did. It's
did he ever do
He's very good. He was the first cosmetic dentist in Central Florida, as a matter of fact. He did almost all the entertainers at Disney. We were here before Disney opened because they truly were going to do Epcot as the experimental prototype city of tomorrow, and he was going to be the dentist at Epcot. But of course, Walt Disney died, and you need that visionary to push these projects forward. So they made Epcot more like a park, similar to the Magic Kingdom, which is still fabulous. Do we love it or what? We're blessed to live here. Come on down. So we had moved here for that, and got very, very involved in the community. And in fact, I've been volunteering for 45 years now, and have received, along with 3 other people, the Volunteer of the Year award for our 4-county area. And my husband did the numbers.
What drives you to volunteer? You know, being a volunteer is a lot of people, you know, we have an amazing amount of volunteers here, obviously, here in Orange County on different projects that we've worked on. But what drove you to want to volunteer? What in your heart made you say, I'm going to go do this?
I grew up in the brand new town where every single person in our town was involved. And my dad was not like politicians are today. He had 10 children in his family, and 3 of the brothers became mayors of their respective cities. And each one of them truly felt God had put them on this earth to serve their fellow man. So growing up with community involvement and honest politicians, I thought everybody in the world
politicians? Come on!
I thought they were all like my hometown, and then I found out, nada. But I do believe that we're all supposed to give back to our community. We can't expect someone else to do it. It said, "We the people." That's us, Randy. You know that better than anyone. And so I really loved, and I believe God gives everybody individual gifts. And the happiest people I know are the people that discover those gifts and then they utilize them. And if they don't, and there's so many that go to their grave and never even know they have gifts.
Taking chances.
That kills my heart. So I have a passion, it's a soapbox subject, to help people discover their gifts And now, as a senior...
And you're so motivational. I know that a lot of the folks that are out here watching are not just on my personal Facebook page, but on yours. And the posts that you put up are so thoughtful and very inspiring. And actually, where does that come from? Is that just, you're a space now where, because I see sometimes, you're really never negative. You're always really positive. Where does that, is it just spirituality? Where do you believe that comes from?
I don't know. I think God gave me a gift of seeing among the population. Even when I was 11 years old, Daddy hired a fabulous recreation developer for our town, and they started little midget league boys football teams. But there were no cheerleaders, and I knew...
Did you become a cheerleader?
I did, absolutely. This big mouth, you bet. But I saw so many people that didn't feel involved because they hadn't made maybe the cheerleading squad.
Sure.
So I went to the director at 11 years old and said, Mr. Lewis, Claude Lewis invented T-ball too. I love you, Mr. Lewis. And I said, if I get a varsity cheerleader... He invented T-ball.
Wow.
Was he great? Were we blessed to grow up with this man?
Sure.
And I said, if I'll get a varsity cheerleader to train them, I'll help them get their uniforms together. And he said, sure, Burma. So we started it, and I went back about a year ago during the season, and to now see hundreds of the little cheerleaders, it makes me feel good.
Sure.
Then I got into high school and found out the guys that are stars on the football teams and the cheerleaders are popular. They're wonderful personalities. Everyone loves them. But about 90% of the other students don't necessarily feel like they're part of the thing.
Sure.
So again, I went to our teachers and our principal and I said, could I start a pep club? And we can get letter sweaters for everybody, and I can have practices for them every week, and we'll get a cheerleader in to train them. We'll get a bus to take them to the games. And I said, then they'll feel like they're more a part of the school. We had over 90 kids join that. We had the practices, and when we would go to away football games, for instance, we had signs. I had the art department do a 9-foot mascot. Those kids all of a sudden felt like they had worth.
Sure.
And now when I go back to reunions, I'm stunned every time because they come up to me and say, I didn't feel like anything. I felt worthless, and you made me feel like I was somebody.
And I know that advocating for seniors is a big passion point for you, and certainly whether it be on the healthcare side or et cetera. Tell us where, I know obviously as a senior, you're witnessing and watching some confusion and concern by some seniors, especially with the changes. What are your thoughts about how we view seniors in our day and age?
I think our seniors is a good subject to talk about where we live here in Florida, because we're the retirement capital of the world also.
Sure.
And people work hard, I've discovered, all their lives so they can retire to Florida.
Right.
And then they get down here, and if they get involved, they're very happy.
Sure.
Randy, if they come down here and just get on the lazy boy or the leather sofa and watch television, then they just die. And I'm a baby boomer, and we've always been the largest chunk of the population. And baby boomers are great people. They were hard workers, honest. We grew up in the 50s and 60s, which was a magical time, not very much crime. And they all had dreams. And for one reason or another, maybe it was their children getting married, raising their children, or health issues, or just working to put food on the table. They would kind of push their dreams aside. And now they're all senior citizens.
Right.
And I'll talk to them because I know that they can do these things, and they'll say, oh, Burma, it's too late for me. And I want to tell you, it is never, never too late.
Great point.
Never give up on your dreams. God is the one who puts our dreams in our hearts, and He is perfectly capable of seeing it to fruition. I'll tell you about my mother. Daddy was mayor. And back in those days,
the mayor of the town?
He was mayor of our town.
Very cool.
And back in those days, the first lady wasn't an activist like Hillary, and she just stood there and smiled.
You don't like Hillary. It's okay.
Oh well, there's a prison not big enough.
Hey, before I forget, I got to give a shout out to
Mr. Trump.
Greg Fournier. He sent this to me, this bobblehead, this Trump thing, because I wanted to make sure, because I know
we have a great president. If you're for Mr. Trump, don't even listen to the negative news. Just tell people what he's doing. It's amazing. He's going to be one of the best presidents we've ever had.
They just got to give him a chance, right?
But let me tell you about Mother.
Okay.
She was standing beside my dad, just smiling, and Daddy passed away. And Mother was 72 years old. They'd been married for almost 50 years, and she was lonely. So every week she'd call down to Florida and say, Burma, this is Mother. Like I wouldn't recognize her voice.
So she had a southern accent.
She did, and she would say, you still need to be in Boston singing with the orchestra, and you need to be doing this and that. And I finally said, Mother, you're the one who loved show business, and you're the funniest person I've ever met. She was like I Love Lucy.
Sure.
And I said,
That
it's never too late.
It's maybe. Your mom.
But I told Mother, I said, Grandma Moses didn't even touch a paintbrush until she was 73 years old. And Colonel Sanders, who has Kentucky Fried Chicken, didn't even think about chicken until he was 65 years old.
Love me some extra crunchy, extra KFC. Ain't nothing better than that.
It's never too late. When I was talking to Mother, my favorite pianist, Arthur Rubinstein, was 95 years old and still doing concerts all over the world. So I said, Mother, it's never too late. Do it. So Mother went to the Macon, Georgia Library and wrote a show for she and 6 senior ladies.
Wow.
And they were from 72 to 82 years old. They dressed in funny costumes and did 3 dance routines. Mother dressed like Phyllis Diller. She did the emceeing of the show and introduced them. They were so funny, they did for the next 10 years 2 shows a week all over Georgia. They were even on Good Morning America.
Wow, good for
and
her.
They were giving so much publicity to my hometown, they bought a bus for them to travel in.
Nice.
And so I knew my mother, of course, the entire growing up years, and I don't think she was ever happier than she was that 10 years. So
that's an inspiring
you
story.
Have
That's
gifts.
an inspiring story.
It's never too late for your dreams. Do it, because the happy people are the ones that find their gifts and utilize them.
And one of the things you say to me a lot is the best is yet to come. And I love that, because a lot of people, once they get through certain stages of life, we just kind of think that that's the end, right?
Right.
And you see, mental illness and depression and all the things that come along with that. So I appreciate you saying that. Talk to me a little bit about, I don't want to spend a lot of time on politics. Obviously, I believe the pageant system kind of lends itself to connecting yourself and meeting politicians.
Right.
What made you get involved? Because a lot of people don't realize you are pretty active in politics.
Very much so.
And I know your father was there. Is that really where the inspiration came from? And why do you still do it to this point?
It did. I believe that this is our country, and it's up to us to make our country good. If we see something happening that's not a good thing, we need to get involved and not expect someone else to do it. I think that our Congress has gotten out of hand because people...
We need term limits in Congress, don't you think?
We are, and that's one thing
that
President Trump is pushing that.
Sure,
and so
sure.
it's going to have to come from the executive office pushing it.
Right.
But I think everybody realizes it, especially in some of the things that have happened recently. But when you see something going on, you can't just sit back. There's a formula at most political offices. For every Facebook message or email or letter they receive, they believe that's representing 400 opinions. Now, if they just get one opinion, one letter, or one Facebook or one email, it may not make them move, but if you can get a lot of your friends on the same subject, bombard them at the same time, they go, whoa, what is this all about?
Pete
and then they'll act.
Friend of ours, says she got involved in politics because she's a true American and a patriot.
Oh, thank you, Pete. He is so sweet, and he's just the cutest thing you ever saw. And he comes from a family of 5 boys, and his brother was mayor of Orange County, and he may run again.
You never know, right? He was on the show not long ago. Let's transition to cooking. I know this is a passion point for you. As a matter of fact, folks, what you don't see, and you're going to see here shortly, is we have... tell us what we're having. I want to give Tommy Bayshore, who's our producer, he's here. I'm going to give Tommy some of our food that we're getting ready. Here you go, Tommy. Everybody, I want you to meet Tommy. You don't ever get to see Tommy.
This is sweet Tommy, our producer. Look at that handsome. He should be a movie star, don't you think? Look at this gorgeous man.
I'm going to ruin my diet here.
There you go. There you go, Tommy.
Thank you.
Tell us, first of all, what we're getting ready to eat. But how did cooking, you're from the South. Is that how it gets started?
Well,
I'm going to try one of these, just so you know.
Let me tell you what you're eating, Tommy. And this is pulled pork barbecue. We grow up in the South, and my cooking...
With sweet pickles.
Yes, with sweet pickles, you bet. And you make the pickles, too. My mother
Did you
was
make the pickles? Really?
My mother is the best Southern cook I've ever known, and my great aunt Runette was the best Southern, and all of her friends were
Oh my God,
great
that's
Southern
really
cooks.
good.
But let me tell you, thank you. Do you
I'm gonna
love
eat it. While you're talking, I'm gonna eat.
Go ahead, y'all
Amazing.
eat. Amazing. Yeah.
Amazing, right.
Amazing. But I didn't know how to cook because Mother did all of the cooking. And then I was engaged, and I thought, my poor husband, he's going to think I'm going to cook for him, and I don't know how. So one of our most popular Southern dishes is country fried steak. And that's a round roast that you pound flour in, and then you make your gravy out of cream and mushroom soup, which all Southern women use. And then you put it in the oven. But I made the gravy from the cream and mushroom soup, and it was cream, and gravy's supposed to be brown. And I'm an artist, so I ran to the grocery store and got red, blue, green, and yellow food coloring. And I brought it back and mixed it until the gravy was brown.
Oh my God, that is really good.
Thank you. Have another. I brought you plenty.
I know, I've had
plenty.
plenty. We're going to take it down to Bayshore Interactive when we're done. We're going to let all those folks eat what's left. But go ahead.
Well,
Don't,
anyway,
don't mind me, I'm just eating.
That's okay. I put it in the oven, and you slow cook meat. If you cook it at a lower temperature, ladies, for a long time, it tenderizes your meat. So I pulled it out, and I'm not a chemist, so I don't know what happened to the blue and the red.
Good.
Thank you very much. If they love your food, you love them.
And I would tell you if it wasn't good, just so you know. But
But listen, when I got the country steak out of the oven, it was green. The other food
Green?
coloring cooked away, and it's looked like lumps of mold.
Was it good though?
Oh, it tasted delicious, but this was his first meal from me. So
Oh, you're lucky.
It's lucky because no matter how good the chef is, all your cooking heroes, they've all had their disasters.
Oh, sure,
so don't
sure,
beat yourself up when you have these boo-boos, because it happens to all of us. And thanks to him, he ate it and acted
Here,
like
I'm
it was
gonna show
the best
everybody
thing.
the plate. I'm sorry, I'm
Okay,
reaching.
that's okay.
I mean, look at this, folks. Look at that. Isn't that just amazing?
These are barbecued pulled pork sliders, and when I moved to Florida, there was not a good barbecue place
And the
down here.
fudge. I feel like I'm gonna price this right. I'm smiling
This
and
is
everything.
my
There you go.
chocolate peanut butter brownie bites.
And we're going to put the recipes in the comments, right? We can do
You
that
bet,
for people?
you
Okay,
bet.
we'll come back to that.
And my cookbook is called Entertaining Southern Style.
So let's talk about that.
Okay.
So how did you, I mean, we hear a lot of people say, oh, I'm going to write a cookbook. I'm going to write a cookbook. How did you get into the process of doing that? Where did that come from?
Well, I was doing events as fundraisers and for arts organizations and churches and schools and pageants and individuals. And I had no idea, because one project, you're going from one to the other, so I never looked back and never knew how much money I'd raised. My husband did the numbers 3 years ago. I raised $159 million in 45 years. And
We need you on some campaigns.
well, a lot of them were done at my home and
Sure.
around my dining table, and I love to do things fabulously. For formal dinners, I do maybe 5 courses and do a different antique china with each course. And people
So you do it over the top. Is that what you...
I can do it everything from casual
Oh,
to
I've seen your dining room.
formal.
It's beautiful. So
Thank you. Thank you. But every event would say, I've never been to anything like this before. You should write a book on how to do this.
Sure.
But you're so busy doing it, you don't have time for the book. Now that I'm a senior, it's going back to that old thing, your dreams can come true. I decided now's the time to do the cookbook. And I love it, Randy, but this is a 6-year working on it. And I found out 3 years ago that I love her, but Julia Child took 8 years to write her first
Really?
cookbook, and then 2 more to publish it.
Wow.
So I think we're doing pretty good. It's going to be the best cookbook that's ever been written in the whole wide world. It's filled with recipes from Southern cooks that have given me their family secret recipes because they want the cookbook to be a success. And it's filled with Southern stories.
What's your favorite thing to cook, Burma? If you had to pick, like if your family, let's ask about your family first. If your family said, my mom's best meal is what?
They all have favorites. It's according to age. I have a 14-year-old grandson who could live on Grandma's chili. He loves her beef stew. He loves my buffalo wings. If they'd be so hot, it would burn your great hair off.
Oh, really?
He loves heat. Grandma
Did you
does
just point?
too.
I think Burma just said I have gray hair.
Great hair.
Wow.
Fabulous
Oh, great
hair.
hair. Great hair.
Great
I
hair.
thought you said gray hair.
No, great hair. Great hair.
There might be some gray in there. Just kidding.
But I love doing some of the Southern classics, but I also enjoy things that I was introduced to in New England. I love making lobster Newburgh. I would
Oh,
put it
that
up
sounds
against anyone's.
delicious.
The barbecue is always a favorite, and I love desserts. I was surprised to learn I have 33 chapters in the cookbook.
Really?
And I have over 850 recipes that I've cooked and love. And a large cookbook only is one that has about 200. So one of the most difficult jobs has been deciding which recipes to put in.
Sure.
I've got enough for book number 2, book number 3, book number 4. And there are 33 chapters, and I was surprised to learn I had more recipes for vegetables. Southerners know how to do vegetables.
Well, that's interesting. Let's talk about that because, I've shared with you prior to the show starting that I grew up kind of with salt, pepper, and butter. That
Right.
was really what we flavored things with. And I think it's one of my scariest things to do is to add spices to things, because what if I don't like it? How do you decide what those spices are going to be for things? So I think you mentioned that your grandson really likes your Brussels sprouts and all that kind of stuff. How do you get to that space? Is it a lot of trial and error?
No, yes, you get recipes, and now I've done it so often that I can almost read a recipe and tell you what it's going to need or if it's going to be good or not. But you do a lot of trial and error. My mother being a great cook, I wish she would have had a recipe for everything she does. About half of her dishes had recipes. The other things I've had to experiment to try to duplicate Mother's fabulous buttermilk biscuits, her fabulous southern mac and cheese, her fabulous best I've ever had fried chicken. And it's taken a lot of it.
I love fried chicken. I love fried chicken.
You will die. And the secret to good fried chicken is marinating it overnight in buttermilk.
Really?
The buttermilk tenderizes the chicken, and it somehow infuses into the meat to make it juicy. And you want your fried chicken to be juicy inside, but have almost like a triple crispy crust on the outside.
I like the skin on fried chicken. Do you know? I know why people all want all the skin and stuff.
Absolutely.
You know, in the recent years, we've seen this huge push with food, like, know this, you got to do it this way. I feel like you live once, just enjoy it. How have you had to adapt, or have you healthy cooking into the things that you participate
Well, right now my cookbook is entertaining Southern style, and so most of my
there's nothing
recipes
healthy
are
about that
Southern.
one.
No, there's some healthy, but I will tell you, I did the dumbest thing, y'all. I put a chapter in friends and family because I've got so many friends that are good cooks. But I put it out on Facebook, and my Facebook friends are fabulous. They're wonderful, wonderful people. I love all of you.
They love you, trust me.
I love them too. But I was deluged. I said, if you'll send me your recipes, we maybe can put it in the cookbook. Randy, I got hundreds and hundreds.
Really?
And I have promised my readers that every single recipe, if they can follow directions and read the recipe, they will have a wonderful, delicious dish at the end.
You need to do a Facebook Live with people cooking things and let people
That
watch
would be a great idea.
I know.
Because it's like teaching. I think there are a lot of people who are afraid of the kitchen. We were talking about that before. And the way I've written the cookbook is to introduce them, teach them how to be comfortable in the kitchen, what you should have in your pantry, some of the tips that they don't talk about in cookbooks. And then these people who are frightened, it'll be like I'm standing right beside them as they go through.
That's a great idea.
And I'm going to help them do a dinner party.
Maybe we'll have to produce something like that for you. You never know.
Well, that sounds interesting.
What's your favorite spice to use?
I love cumin. I love spicy. My grandson and I share the flavor. I love a garlic. Maybe we have Italians in our background.
Right.
But my favorite thing are onions, and especially Vidalia onions.
Oh,
now
I love
the
those,
world
yes.
has discovered our Vidalia, and do you know it's because of the soil? There's a 20-mile radius that the soil is not like that anywhere in the world.
Really?
They've taken the Vidalia onion plants and tried to plant them somewhere else to increase their mileage.
Sure.
Because they're so popular now. They will not grow to be the sweet Vidalias. It's the soil in Vidalia, Georgia.
Wow.
And they grow carrots too. So I love all my buddies in Vidalia too. Hi.
One of the harder things for me when I'm cooking is, especially, now grilling seems to be a little bit easier, but not to get on a tangent, but when cooking meat on the stovetop or in the oven, that's always a bit more interesting, if you will.
Right.
You just can't quite. Where do you do most of your cooking? Is it on the grill? Is it going to be in the kitchen?
I do it in the kitchen, and as I mentioned earlier, like for instance, pulled pork. I put a rub on my pork shoulder that has about 18 ingredients, and I let it sit in the refrigerator overnight, and that sort of tenderizes the meat. Then I just put Vidalia onions on the bottom of a pan, sit the roast on that, and cook it slowly at 300 degrees for about 6 hours. Then it absolutely pulls apart. And my sauce, when we moved to Florida, there was no barbecue place. My parents were living, so when they would visit, they would bring me quarts of barbecue sauce from Georgia. Or when I went there, I'd buy quarts. Then my parents both died, and there was no more barbecue sauce. And I thought, Burma, don't you think it's about time you figure out how to make it? And Randy,
So that you make your own sauce
I
as
make
well.
my
so
absolutely.
You make your own pickles, you make your own sauce.
Right. It's really easier
I
than
hope
it
you buy the
sounds.
bread at least.
No, I make the bread too.
Oh,
and
you
it's
gotta
so
be
yummy.
kidding me. Okay, that's just too much.
I used to record Martha Stewart's shows, and I have
Oh, I
every
love
single
Martha
show.
Stewart. I
I
do like
loved
her.
her too. She's a great teacher. I absolutely adore
Let's
her.
talk about that. Where are some of
Okay.
your inspirations for what you're doing? Who are some of your cooking idols, if you will?
I have a speed button for the Food Network on my television, naturally, and there are some cooks. I loved it when Emeril was on his show. He
Right.
sort of started
And he
television
likes spicy
for
food,
cooks.
so that's probably yeah.
And I tell you, television has gotten so violent. There's a lot of cursing
Yeah.
and overt sex. And so a lot of people that were tired of that, I think, started watching the Food Network because they knew at least it would be clean and it wouldn't be
Sure,
stressful.
sure.
And did you know, Randy, that the Food Network at one time was the fastest growing network in television?
Really?
And the big three, especially NBC, CBS, and ABC, were thinking, who's this little upstart, food
Right.
network that's out
Oh, I love
growing
watching
us?
the cooking channel. I do.
Everybody does. It's just changed the world. Emeril I loved. I loved Paula. I have recorded almost all of Paula's. I think that she has put Savannah on the map. I admire her because her family actually went bankrupt about 3 times and lost
Really?
about 3 homes.
Sure.
And she's an overcomer. And you know me, I love for people to find their gifts and do what they're really supposed to be doing. She finally rented a restaurant in Savannah and started, and then she's a good businesswoman,
Right.
fabulous businesswoman. She bought another building at one of the squares, and now she's opening restaurants in Pigeon Forge, and now she's buying another house in New York. I love Paula.
I think we all love comeback stories, right? I know she went through
Absolutely.
some challenges there for a while. I think
Right.
we like that. I want to kind of pivot a little bit and talk a little bit about the differences between when you first arrived in Orlando and the Orlando that you see today. What are your feelings about our growth and how things are going? And just kind of give me your perspective of someone who's, I came to the opening with my family of Disney, but of course I wasn't around until 1987. So tell me a little bit about
I
that.
love Orlando. I've been here now for 47 years. When I
So
came,
this really is home in
It
some
really
ways.
is home. I've been here 2 times as long as in the town where I grew up, but I love them both. They're very different. When I came here, Disney had not opened. And I remember going to a council meeting where the Disney people were explaining to the mayor and to
Really?
the city councilman that you start getting your roads ready now. If you wait till the crowds,
Interesting.
it's going to be
Yeah.
too late. And they were thinking, sure, they're going to do all this stuff, sure. And I'm used to hearing that when I'm explaining projects to different
Sure,
chairs.
sure.
They don't realize we're really going to do all that stuff. But we were there for the opening of the Magic Kingdom. We were there for the opening of Epcot, for the opening of the Animal Kingdom. I love it.
And that was soon after you won Miss Georgia, right? Just a few years.
It was just a couple of years. I was one of 3 models in town. My best 2 girlfriends, one had been Miss America, Debbie Bryant, and one had been Miss Universe, Sylvia Hitchcock Carson. We were the only 3 models in town. So
you
we
remember
did
names like this. I can't remember. What's Tommy's name?
It's almost a
Let's-
curse. Yeah, Randy, what did you say, Randy? Robert, whatever. But we were doing the commercials for Tupperware. Nothing was on International Drive, which is where, for those not from Orlando, most of our hotels are
Sure.
and restaurants. Nothing was there. I was the model for the opening of the very first hotel on
Wow.
International Drive. They also had a Stars Hall of Fame where it was a wax museum, and
Sure.
Glenn Ford was here, and Donna Douglas, who played Ellie Mae on the Beverly Hillbillies, was here. So I've watched every single solitary building going up on International Drive.
Kevin Dykes. Is that a relative of yours? Kevin says she's my cousin. Oh, maybe he's talking about Paula Deen or something like that.
I bet he's talking about
Sure,
Paula
sure,
Deen. That
sure,
name's
sure.
not familiar, but Kevin, get on our Facebook. We'll be friends fast.
So, it's gone through so many changes, but so has society,
Right.
and obviously when you were, 68, when you won Miss Georgia, what you were talking about then and what we're talking about today is just totally different. And I really want to talk about social media and how you feel that it has impacted not just our political scene, but more
Right.
importantly, just things in general. Because, we talk about this all the time. Stay
Right.
positive, stay uplifting.
Right.
The temptation, of course, is to go the other ways. But how do you feel about social media?
I love it. Because of the email, I was able to conduct and get to know all the people for Saving Cypress Gardens. I wrote a newsletter every single day and sent it via email. We got people that had never been involved in any political movement or anything
Sure.
getting involved, and we told them how to do it and what to do. Now I'm proud to say that I have friends all over the country that are still involved locally in their communities because of the success and the gratification they had
Sure.
from saving this. Now it's Facebook for me. We have Twitter. We have so many
Right.
things.
Twitter's a little awkward for me. I look at it, it's hard for me to follow it.
I love it, and since I'm such a big mouth, I need where they let me do it a little bit longer than the limitations on some of them.
164 characters is not enough, right?
No. I write books, mainly. But I think that advice to people is, everyone's going to have good days and they're going to have difficult days. You're going to have trials and victories. When you're going through a difficult day, don't go to Facebook and put it on there. Keep it positive, because tomorrow's going to be a better day and you're going to say, I wish I wouldn't have been there. So when you're writing something on the social network, I think a good rule is anything that you're writing, would you hate to see it as the headline of your local newspaper?
Sure.
And if the answer is no, then don't put it on Facebook. Keep it positive. And I think one reason my friends are so sweet is that they're the type of people who were looking for something positive.
Sure.
They don't want to hear somebody fighting back and forth, using curse words and cutting each other. And we found out that people become what they surround themselves with. So if you surround yourself with nice people, then life is going to be better. And when I see someone come on and they call them trolls on Facebook, you don't even know them, and they just write nasty things. And it doesn't do any good to go back and forth. When I really block them, go on to your nice friends and put more positive things out there.
Tell me about your family. I know you have children and such. When do you want to give us a background on that part of your life?
We're so blessed. My husband and I have 2 children. We could not have children for 7 years, and a lot of people go through that. You go to specialists and you do everything to try to have them.
And it's very expensive.
It's very expensive. So we put our name in for adoption here in Orlando. And my brother, who's in a state I won't name, was best friends with the lawyer who was going to be handling the only adoption he had ever done.
Really?
And a baby was due in 3 weeks, and the adoptive parents had backed out. So my brother called us here in Florida and said, Burma, are you still interested in adopting? And I thought, am I? And he said, we have a baby that's due in 3 weeks. And
wow, that was a fast decision.
Oh,
at that point.
I didn't have a baby bottle, a diaper, a blankie, anything. But my very best friend, who was a kindergarten teacher, had just arrived to spend her week's vacation with us. She said, don't worry, Burma, we've got 3 weeks, we'll get everything done. And she was born early 3 days later.
Wow.
So
you really didn't have time.
I did, and I had gotten 2 doggies, which all people who want babies love their doggies. And I named them my favorite names, Shannon and Sean. So flying to this state, I thought, what are we going to name her? If I name her Shannon, it'll be like naming her after the dog. So we played with the letter and named my adopted beautiful daughter Shanna Lee. And when they put her in my arms, that's one of the 2 happiest moments of my life.
Wow.
And I was, after that, when Shanna was almost 2, I was scheduled for a hysterectomy. And I don't know, God speaks to us in our gut sometimes, and I just felt like I was going to have a baby. 2 weeks, the hysterectomy, that would have taken everything away, no more babies. And I begged my husband to let me go to a very famous man named Robert Greenblatt in Georgia, who was the #1 specialist in this field. And my husband said, no, we've done everything that we can do. And he went away for a weekend meeting. I prayed the whole weekend, changed my husband's mind, let him come back. When he got back, I was outside in the garden, and he put his feet on the driveway and said, Burma, would you please call Robert Greenblatt? That's all I could think about this weekend. So I flew up there, Randy. He was 73 years old. I thought, praise God, he's not dead yet. And it was on a Friday, and Dr. Greenblatt said, why didn't they do this, this, and this? And I said, I don't know. He said, I'll do surgery, honey, and you're going to have a baby.
Wow.
I had to fly back to Orlando. I was singing a solo at Lake Eola that night, and then I flew back on Monday. Dr. Greenblatt did surgery, and I was pregnant with my child in 6 months. So I think they're both miracles. And when they put Summer in my arm, that was the second very happy. I took some medicine, and it's making my mouth go dry.
It's okay.
My husband will say, I'm missing it, and she can't talk
I'm drinking
as much.
water, you're drinking water, it's okay. Burma, one of the questions I ask a lot of guests that come on, actually everyone if I can remember it, is you've done so many things. You've been the pageant person, you've sang all over the country, you've involved in politics, seniors issues, you name it. What's on your bucket list? What is it that you haven't done that you still want to accomplish?
I still would like to plug into the seniors because we have so many now. The more you learn, the more your heart goes out to them. But here in Orlando, I have a project that I think you and Tommy would be interested in.
Hey, what is
I
it?
always have a project, and the next thing I was going to do after Cypress Gardens The film industry should be in Florida. We have the best weather in the country. We have the ocean. We have terrain that looks like Vietnam. I mean, we have so many different
Well, they kind of tried, you know, Burma, they tried with MGM Studios and Universal. What do you attribute, because I watch, you know, Georgia does a great job of promoting their film industry, and we know that locally they've tried to, I mean, Mike Miller, who's running for Congress now, they've tried to, you know, do that, but a lot of people have issues with incentives. What's it going to take to get us to recognize
Well, I'll
this
tell you,
industry?
in Georgia, one of my best friends in high school was Sonny Perdue. And I became Miss Georgia, and Sonny went on to become governor of Georgia. And I told him, if I knew at that time Delta Burke was one of my girls. I used to train thousands of girls for Miss America, and all my girls were first runner-up or winners.
Really?
But Delta was one of my girls, and she married a man from Mississippi named Gerald McCraney, Mac McCraney, who did Major Dad and Simon, and wonderful, wonderful man. But he's from Mississippi, and he was frustrated because he was doing a show called Promised Land, and it's so expensive. Everybody in the country was going to Canada to film their television shows, going to Canada to make their movies. And the reason was because they were offering them the government was offering 15% of the budget if they'd filmed there. Well, if you were a producer and someone's offering you 15% of a multi-million-dollar project, where would you go? So I told Sonny if they'd do that in Georgia. Well, they did it in Georgia. They passed the legislation to give financial incentives to the people. And I'd like for our Florida politicians to understand this. When they're making movies or television shows in communities all over, I cannot begin to tell you how much business that brings to your local people. Hotels, restaurants,
catering, name it.
Unbelievable influx of financial assistance to your local residents. All of y'all want to get back into office. Your local people have to vote you into office. You do this, if you vote to give financial incentives to the movie and television industry, it's going to bring business to your people. They're going to love you so much for doing that. They're going to put you in office forever and forever. It will grow our state. And right now, we just need to be politically friendly. I have all of the stats. Mac has got all of this for Mississippi to take to their legislature. It made sense to them. They did it, and now they're filming many, many things in Mississippi. And as you know, Georgia has exploded. In fact, listen to this, Randy. Georgia did a movie on the coast of Georgia that's supposed to be Ybor City. Duh.
Really?
Should we be making that movie in the real Ybor City instead of them doing that in Georgia?
Well, they took the production up there.
We need to give financial incentives so we can be making these television shows and these movies right here in Florida.
That's a great point, Burma. You know, when you look around this country right now, and I know you love our president, but are there any superstars, people that when you talk about politicians and such, you know, there's a lot of disgust in America right now. I'm sure it's all over the world, but specifically here, and you see these divides.
Right.
But to stay positive, who are some superstars that you've seen throughout your lifetime?
I think we've got some wonderful people in Congress. I hear a lot of folks in their frustration talking about get rid of them all, throw them all out. And I don't agree with that because we have some fabulous Republican senators, for instance, that fought trying to get them to cancel that silly recess. They said they elected us to be up here working. As long as there's work to do, let's do it.
I agree.
Sonny was very good friends with our vice president, and sure enough, Donald Trump recognized his talent. My friend from high school who was governor, he was appointed as Secretary of Agriculture, so he's on President Trump's cabinet. His cousin that also grew up in our home county, Houston County in Georgia, is David Perdue. Remember that name, David Perdue. He is a wonderful Christian. He is a conservative, genuinely a conservative. He is no rhino. He is there to work. He's the only person in Congress that's a Fortune 500 businessman. And we need businessmen. Look at that $20 trillion debt and tell me we don't need somebody that understands business. Now, President Trump has appointed David to be on his committee that's going to be deciding how we handle the people that we bring in so that they're working, and so they won't come in and just go on welfare, but they will come in and be able to be successful at a business themselves so they can contribute to America and become part of America. So go to your website and look up the 20 senators who supported David Perdue to cancel it, and you will see 20 fabulous people to support and vote for. There are also a lot of them that I could tell you that I don't like, but I kind of try to keep it positive.
Well, I have a feeling we probably have the same list. It'd be
do.
very similar. Leland, he was talking about the labor unions being part of the challenge. Amber Douglas, who's over in St. Pete, talking about being politically friendly. As we start to wrap this up, and folks, by the way, I'm pretty confident Burma will go back into the feeds, not only just on this page, but we're on multiple platforms right now, and she'll answer every one of you. I'll respond to every one of you. So I see that a lot of you have been commenting, but I wanted to make sure we kept the focus on keeping the conversation going. Burma, one of the things I find as a gift in friendship with you is that even when I'm having a bad day and I call you, you really have a calming tone to your voice.
Randy,
and I want to share with you, there's so many people in our community that really found and do find you to be just inspirational.
Oh, that's
and we
sweet.
appreciate that. That's a genuine, I'm not
Thank
having
you.
to fluff that. That's the truth. And I think I appreciate you coming onto the show.
Oh, thank
you. We got to get your cookbook done so we can get a cooking show going. But if you had to leave right now, if you have any messages about yourself and how you can help other people, what's that message you would like to send to the folks out there?
Well, politically, it breaks my heart, being a lifetime Republican, to see our Republican Party have divisions. Some of the Republicans are supporting, oh, come here, darling, you're just the sweetest, bestest president. I love our president. He is doing so many fabulous things. He's a new Christian, too. Can I tell you, as a Christian, I have to tell people this.
And your faith is a big part of your life.
My faith is my life. It really is. I couldn't do anything without the Lord. Donald Trump grew up in a Presbyterian church, but Donald Trump really met Jesus Christ with a personal relationship not too long ago. And God said when we meet him, we become a new creature. So when I saw that terrible tape they played 24/7 during the campaign of him in the motorhome, I thought, so what? Anybody's capable of doing anything before you have God in your heart.
Sure.
Now, look at the people he is surrounding himself with. They are people that knew our country was founded on Christian and Judeo principles. That's where our laws were made. And so he's returning to those things that made America great in the first place to help make America great again. And so all the Republicans who are wondering if he's for real, and they're looking at some of the Donald Trump things of the past, my heart would be so happy if they would look at the man and give him a chance and support him. Our Republicans would all support him. Don't you think that would be a great idea?
I absolutely think that would be a great idea.
And I'll tell you about Randy. He really is beloved in this area. And you are just about to put together a new group, isn't it?
We have started a new group. You're part of that, the Orange County Trump Republican Club, now Trump 2020 Club. But what we're trying to do is harness the energy you're speaking of and make sure it goes in a forward and a positive way. And here and there you see people trying to slap you on the knees and try to make you fall. But we're happy to have and proud to have you to be part of that. And I do appreciate everything you did, sincerely.
Thank you so much. But to answer your original question, just like the 90% in those little cheerleaders became a part, and then the 90% in my high school, I think there are a lot of people out there. The question I heard the most in our work last year, working to get Mr. Trump elected, was, gosh, y'all have so much fun. I want to be involved. How do you get involved? And so I think that's an untapped source.
Sure.
About 90% of our people have never been involved. And can I tell you, we would love to have you be part of our family. You would come in. I love all the Trumpsters that I met last year. Some of them have become new best friends.
Sure.
Isn't that the way you feel?
Sure, absolutely.
I absolutely adore them. I know I can call them 24/7 if I've got something that I'm not sure about, and we're there for each other. If you're wondering why you don't have more friends, come and join us. We will help you know how you can fit in and where you can be plugged in, and you'll find you have new friends and a new family. So if I had a message to get out politically, it's the people who are not involved right now to come down, give us a call, give Randy a call, and he can let you know when our next meeting, and tell them when that is.
That's
because
on
it's
August
pretty
16th.
soon.
It's right around the corner.
Right.
Hopefully you're going to be there
You
for
bet.
it.
You bet.
Everybody, Burma Davis Posey, just an amazing gift of a person. If you're not friends with Burma on Facebook, please do yourself a favor and friend request her, because she's just got so much positive energy. Thank you again, Burma.
Thank you,
We really do
Randy.
appreciate you.
Thank you for inviting me.
Give me a hug.
Okay.
Give me a hug. I also want to give a shout out to Tommy Bayshore, Bayshore Interactive, Bayshore Studio Bayshore, Bayshore Aerial, all those wonderful products. You know, if you're thinking about your own Facebook Live, we can produce those for you. So all you have to do is message me and we can put those together. So hopefully you won't wear green. Just kidding.
I felt like a ghost. You can see through me.
Yeah, well, that's not your fault. That's our fault.
I love it.
Anyway, thank you so much. We'll see you again on the front porch on Thursday when we bring Jacqueline Siegel, who I know is a friend of yours as well.
Jackie is a very good friend, and I'll tell you what. First, I want to thank all of my Facebook friends who tuned in and all of my buddies. You are the best. Randy, I can send them a message, and it's not just for them. They are so good and so active.
Right.
They blast it to all their friends.
That's awesome. That's
and
great.
So watch my friend Jackie Siegel. They're building the largest home in America, 92,000 square feet.
That's a big
and
house.
they give a lot away and help a lot of people.
They really do.
They're
and a lot
wonderful.
of that's what I'm, just like with you, I want people to get to know the other side of Jackie.
Right.
That often is not the side that we get to see. So everybody, thank you again, and thank you for watching Front Porch Chat Live.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
As Nana says, bye-bye.